Most CVT transmissions don't fail because of bad parts. They fail because of how people drive them. Simple habits like quick launches, cold starts, skipping maintenance, or shutting off right after a long drive slowly create trapped heat and fluid breakdown that destroy the system from within. Unlike regular automatics, a CVT is a precision unit built around friction and hydraulic balance. Even small pressure changes can decide whether it lasts 200,000 miles or dies before 50. Today, we'll uncover some of the bad habits behind most CVT deaths and how a few small changes can make yours last far longer. If you care about keeping your car healthy, hit subscribe now. You'll save thousands before your next drive.
Habit number 1. Treating a CVT like a regular automatic. Most CVT transmissions fail not because they're weak, but because they're misunderstood. The number one bad habit is driving a CVT as if it were a traditional automatic, flooring the gas from a stop, shifting too quickly, or assuming it can take the same stress as a geared transmission. A CVT doesn't shift through fixed gears. It constantly adjusts the belt and pulley ratio to balance power and efficiency. When you accelerate too hard or too suddenly, you force that belt to grip under extreme pressure, creating heat, slippage, and microscopic wear every single time. Unlike conventional automatics, a CVT relies heavily on stable hydraulic pressure and smooth throttle input. Sharp movements confuse the transmission control module, making it chase the right ratio instead of maintaining steady pressure. Over time, that stress turns into fluid breakdown and pulley wear. The right habit is simple: drive progressively, not aggressively. Apply throttle smoothly, avoid sudden gear selections, and let the CVT adjust naturally. Think of it less like shifting gears, and more like stretching a rubber band. The smoother the stretch, the longer it lasts. Treat your CVT with patience, and it'll reward you with years of quiet, reliable performance. Habit number 2. Skipping the hidden CVT filter. Changing your CVT fluid is essential, but many drivers overlook a small part that can make or break the transmission: the internal or external CVT filter. This filter works just like an engine oil filter, trapping metal shavings and clutch debris that build up as the belt and pulleys operate. Over time, that filter becomes restricted, reducing oil flow and starving the transmission of hydraulic pressure. Once that happens, the CVT begins to slip, run hotter, and wear faster, even if you've just replaced the fluid. In many vehicles, especially Nissan, Subaru, and Toyota models, the filter is tucked deep inside the housing or near the cooler lines, out of sight, out of mind. But skipping it means the fresh fluid is still circulating through contamination. The fix is simple: replace or clean the CVT filter every 30,000 to 40,000 miles, along with fluid service. Think of this filter as the transmission's lungs. If they can't breathe freely, everything else suffocates. Regular replacement keeps your CVT running cooler, smoother, and far longer than most drivers ever expect. Habit number 3. Ignoring software and firmware updates. Modern CVTs depend heavily on their transmission control module, TCM, the small computer that manages clutch pressure, pulley ratios, and fluid flow in real time. Yet many drivers, and even some shops, ignore software updates released by manufacturers. These updates often correct timing errors, shift calibration, and overheating issues that shorten a CVT's life. For instance, some Honda and Nissan service bulletins include firmware patches that refine how the belt engages under load, preventing unnecessary friction and heat buildup. When this software goes unchecked, your CVT may hold the wrong ratio too long, apply inconsistent pressure, or fail to adapt to fluid aging. Over time, that creates erratic performance, reduced efficiency, and premature wear. Checking for software updates during routine service can prevent most of these issues. It's as simple as asking your dealer or a certified shop to scan the vehicle for TCM revisions. Think of it like updating your phone. Each patch removes hidden bugs that quietly drain performance. Keep your CVT's software current, and you're not just driving smarter, you're giving the hardware a longer, smoother life. Habit number 4. Trusting a faulty temperature sensor. A CVT's entire operation depends on accurate temperature reading. The fluid's viscosity, hydraulic pressure, and pulley clamping force all adjust based on temperature data sent by a small sensor inside the transmission. When that sensor starts feeding inaccurate signals, even slightly off, the TCM makes poor decisions. It might raise pressure too high when the fluid is cold or reduce it too soon while the transmission is still hot. The result: slipping belts, delayed response, and heat damage that silently compounds with every drive. A failing temperature sensor doesn't always trigger a warning light. Signs include inconsistent RPMs, harsh engagement after warm-up, or strange behavior during long climbs or cold starts. The fix is straightforward: Have your transmission scanned for live temperature data during service interval. If readings don't match real conditions, replace the sensor immediately. This small, inexpensive part acts as the CVT's thermostat. When it lies, the whole system suffers. Trusting an old or inaccurate sensor is like flying blind. It might work for a while, but eventually it leads straight to failure. Quick pause. Subscribe now for more smart tips that keep your car running longer. Habit number 5. Uneven tires and driveline drag. Many drivers never realize that their tires and brakes directly affect their CVT's health. Uneven tire sizes, mismatched treadwear, or dragging brakes create small but constant resistance differences between the wheels. Because a CVT adjusts ratios to maintain balance, this uneven load forces the belt and pulleys to work harder on one side than the other. Over time, that imbalance leads to belt slippage, fluid overheating, and premature wear inside the transmission. Even simple issues, like underinflated tires or uneven brake pad pressure, can cause the pulleys to fight against each other, generating unnecessary heat and friction. The fix is easy but often overlooked. Rotate your tires regularly, maintain equal air pressure, and inspect for brake drag. If your car pulls slightly to one side or your tires wear unevenly, your CVT is already feeling the strain. Think of the CVT as a finely tuned orchestra. Every component must play in harmony. When one wheel is out of sync, the entire system suffers. Keeping your tires and driveline balanced doesn't just improve fuel economy, it adds years to your transmission's life. Habit number 6. Believing the lifetime fluid myth. One of the most dangerous myths in car maintenance is the idea of lifetime transmission fluid. Many drivers take this term literally, assuming the fluid never needs replacement. In reality, lifetime often means the expected warranty life, not the vehicle's full lifespan. CVT fluid operates under high heat and pressure, constantly lubricating the belt and pulleys while carrying away microscopic metal particles. Over time, it oxidizes, thickens, and loses its ability to protect the system. Even if your car feels fine, dark or burnt-smelling fluid signals internal stress. Neglecting it leads to slipping, overheating, and irreversible belt damage. Most experts recommend replacing CVT fluid every 30,000 to 40,000 miles. Especially in stop-and-go or hot conditions. Always use the manufacturer's specified fluid. Each brand has unique friction modifiers tailored for its system. Regular fluid changes aren't over-maintenance, they're cheap insurance. A few $100s in service can save you thousands in repairs. Trust data, not marketing. No fluid lasts forever, especially in a CVT. Habit number 7. Overfilling the fluid. While low fluid levels can cause CVT failure, overfilling is equally dangerous, and surprisingly common. When too much fluid is added, it aerates and forms bubbles inside the system. These bubbles collapse under pressure, creating tiny pockets where the belt and pulleys lose proper grip. The result is erratic pressure, slippage, and rapid fluid breakdown. The transmission may feel fine at first, but will eventually overheat and wear out from within. Most CVTs require fluid to be checked at a specific temperature, usually between 35 and 45 degrees C, with the car level and running. Filling while cold or without the proper scan tool leads to inaccurate readings. Even professional shops sometimes make this mistake when rushing a service. The correct approach is precision, not assumption. Follow the manufacturer's procedure exactly, and never top off unless you're certain of the fluid's temperature and level. CVTs are sensitive systems. Even a small deviation can cause lasting damage. In transmission care, accuracy matters more than excess. The CVT relies heavily on electronics, solenoids, sensors, and the transmission control module, all of which depend on steady voltage to maintain precise hydraulic pressure. When the voltage drops below 12.4 volts, those solenoids begin to respond inconsistent. Pressure fluctuates, clutches engage unevenly, and the belt slips for fractions of a second. Those slips might go unnoticed at first, but each one leaves microscopic wear on the metal belt and pulley surfaces. Over tens of thousands of miles, that wear becomes measurable damage. Many drivers only replace their battery when it completely dies, unaware that long before that point, the weakened voltage is already harming sensitive transmission components. Signs like a slightly delayed start, flickering dashboard lights, or inconsistent idle can also mean your CVT isn't getting the power it needs. Checking voltage during regular service, cleaning corroded terminals, and replacing weak batteries every few years keeps electrical signals stable and solenoid timing precise. Think of your CVT's electronics as the brain and your battery as its power supply. A weak battery confuses the system, leading to poor decisions inside the transmission. Spend a little on preventive maintenance, and you'll avoid spending thousands on a full rebuild later. Quick reminder, hit subscribe to stay ahead of costly car problems. Habit number 9. Shutting off too quickly after hard driving. After a long highway trip, a steep mountain climb, or towing a heavy load, it's tempting to pull into your driveway, shift into park, and immediately turn off the ignition. But doing that traps extreme heat inside your CVT, a condition technicians call heat soak. Once the engine stops, the cooling fans shut off and fluid circulation halts, leaving the internal components to absorb and radiate their own heat. That trapped energy continues to cook the transmission fluid and harden the seals long after the car is turned off. CVT fluid is designed to tolerate high temperatures, but only temporarily. Without circulation, the hottest parts of the transmission, the pulleys and the belt contact surfaces, remain far above safe limits for minutes at a time. That lingering heat breaks down additives, causes varnish buildup, and shortens both fluid and component life dramatically. The fix couldn't be simpler. After demanding drives, let the engine idle for 60 to 90 seconds before shutting down. During that brief moment, the cooling fan continues running, fluid moves through the cooler, and temperatures drop back to a safe range. It costs nothing, adds less than 2 minutes to your trip, and can easily double your CVT's lifespan. Patience after power is the key. Just like cooling down a turbocharger, allowing your CVT to rest properly prevents years of premature wear. Habit number 10. City crawl syndrome. Few driving environments are harsher on a CVT than stop-and-go city traffic. While it might feel gentle at low speeds, the transmission is constantly working under light load, forcing the belt to grip and release repeatedly. This half-engaged state produces continuous friction and heat, while airflow remains minimal. The longer you sit in congestion, the hotter and thinner the fluid becomes, reducing its ability to maintain pressure and protect internal components. Over time, this leads to glazing on the belt, pulleys losing their polished surface, and a gradual decline in smoothness or response. Fortunately, there are ways to minimize the damage. When you know you'll be idling for more than 30 seconds, shift into neutral. This relieves the pulleys from holding tension unnecessarily. Keep throttle input steady rather than constantly creeping forward a few inches. If you live in a hot climate or regularly face heavy traffic, consider adding an auxiliary CVT cooler. It's a small investment that helps maintain fluid temperature and drastically improves long-term reliability. Think of city driving as a slow endurance test for your transmission. The more consistent and controlled your habits, the easier the CVT can cope. Every calm start and smooth stop adds time to its life. Proof that the smartest way to drive in traffic is also the most patient. Habit number 11. Using quick fix additives. One of the most tempting shortcuts for car owners is the use of miracle transmission additives. These products often promise smoother shifts, reduced noise, or instant performance improvement. But in CVTs, they do far more harm than good. Unlike traditional automatics, CVTs rely on highly specific fluid chemistry. Each manufacturer designs its own formula to balance friction, lubrication, and cooling properties for the steel belt and pulleys. When you pour in an aftermarket additive, you alter that delicate balance. Many additives thicken the fluid or modify its friction characteristics, which might temporarily mask issues like shuddering or noise. However, behind the scenes, they disrupt the controlled slip between the pulleys and belt, increase operating temperatures, and degrade the seals that regulate hydraulic pressure. Over time, this leads to early fluid oxidation, sticky valves, and eventual transmission failure. The safest and only effective additive for your CVT is genuine OEM fluid, nothing more. If you're experiencing roughness or slipping, that's a sign of wear or contamination, not a chemical problem. Fix the cause, not the symptom. Shortcuts might promise quick results, but in a CVT, they're the fastest route to irreversible damage and a very expensive lesson. Most failures aren't sudden mechanical breakdowns. They're the result of small, repeated habits that slowly erode the system from within. A skipped filter change, an ignored software update, a rushed shutdown after a long drive. Each one adds a layer of heat, wear, and imbalance that the driver never feels until it's too late. Yet, the real strength of a CVT lies in its precision and efficiency. When maintained correctly, it can outlast traditional automatics by tens of thousands of miles. The key is awareness, gentle driving, clean fluid, balanced tires, healthy voltage, and patience after every demanding trip. These aren't complicated repairs, they're mindful choices behind the wheel. Treat your CVT not as fragile, but as finely engineered. Respect its limits, and it will reward you with years of smooth, reliable performance. If you learned something new today, subscribe for more simple tips that keep your car running longer and stronger. Top of 4.